The crown prince, my childhood sweetheart, proposed to my beloved the day after, only to suddenly regret it. When a gossiping maid cursed me, he had her tongue cut out. When my beloved held a grudge against me, he had her family's estate confiscated. Once he wished me dead, yet now he kneels in every temple, praying for my health. I watched coldly, never telling him I too had been reborn. On my coming-of-age day, he arrived with a procession of red wedding finery to witness me receive the imperial decree. The betrothal was not for him. As I was about to give birth to the legitimate first son, the crown prince's favorite concubine burst in. She dismissed the midwife, poured out the ginseng broth, and watched coldly as I clawed at my nails in agony. Smugly stroking her slightly rounded belly, she declared, "His Highness doesn't care for this child. He promised our child would be the future crown prince. So, you'll just have to make do." Darkness swirled before my eyes as I gasped. Struggling. Why? I must see Xuanning. The delivery room was stained with blood. His Highness is noble, how could he set foot in this lowly place? Zhou Wanru covered her nose in disgust. Who told you and your tactless father to always try to repay favors? A mere life-saving debt. And you dared to covet the crown princess's position? My eyes bulged as if they would burst. The tearing pain nearly ripped me in two. I wanted to ask, when did I ever exploit favors? But consciousness faded. My final vision was Zhou Wanru lifting a blurred mass of blood and flesh, mercilessly drowning it in the basin. My child. Never mind. It should never have been born. If there is a next life, do not seek me out again. I turned away without a second thought. Yet, just as I was about to step onto the bridge of forgetfulness, a bone-chilling, heart-wrenching cry pierced the air. "Mang Man! I hear the crown prince has been kneeling in the hall of diligent governance for 3 days straight." It enraged His Majesty so much that he ordered him to be flogged. Serves him right. A fickle turncoat. Unworthy of being called a gentleman. Pa. The maids deliberately lowered their voices as they passed my door. Inside, Luyan covered the window with her sleeves, gazing at me with deep concern. She hesitated, then spoke, "Miss, take care of yourself. Don't grieve anymore." Who says I'm grieving? I stared blankly at my flat stomach, then suddenly laughed. I'm overjoyed. I've been reborn. Reborn before marrying Xuanning. In my past life, I grew up alongside Crown Prince Xuanning, 2 hearts bound as one. From childhood, I knew I'd become Crown Princess. My father, the loyal Marquis, was a pure-hearted minister, loyal to the bone. Under his guidance, I was injured protecting Xuanning as a child, leaving me with a heart ailment. In my dazed state, I heard Xuanning kneel before my father and swear an oath. Xuanning would never betray Xiaoman in this lifetime. But later, he met his true love and was determined to make her his legitimate wife. His Majesty, mindful of reputation, refused to annul our betrothal. So Xuanning harbored resentment toward me. Not only did he indulge his maidservants in cursing my short life, he let his beloved steal my medicinal herbs. He mocked me with scorn, then forced himself upon me on our wedding night despite my struggles. In the end, his eyes were filled with disgust. "You cling to me relentlessly, isn't this what you wanted? In pain? Mang Man, stop pretending. If you wish to die, do it quickly. Don't obstruct my view." Later, he pampered his lover outside the mansion while I labored all night in the back courtyard. As dawn broke, 2 lives ended. Now, given a second chance, fate refuses to repeat itself. Xuanning threatened his life until His Majesty relented, granting him a marriage to his beloved. Yet inexplicably, he regretted it. During supper, Mother cautiously mentioned Xuanning. "Xiaoman, are you still in contact with His Highness?" Seeing me shake my head, She exhaled in relief. His Highness sent a calling card through an intermediary. But I refused it. I heard he wants to ask His Majesty to grant you a new marriage decree. Clang! My fingers trembled, sending the silver chopsticks clattering against the bowl's rim with a sharp clang. Xuanning wants to propose to me again? What kind of nonsense is he spouting? What about Zhou Wanru? She, like me, saved Xuanning's life. The difference is, she didn't know his identity at the time. Though she saved him, her words showed no reverence. Instead, she scolded him for wasting her precious herbs, bossing him around. Xuanning fell in love with her uniqueness. Wanru is different from you. She possesses great compassion. To her, I am no different from any commoner, we are all her patients. If she treats you no differently than anyone else, what is it about her that you love? I longed to retort, but Xuanning's eyes were filled with suspicion. When you threw yourself to save me back then, wasn't it to secure your Meng family's lifelong favor? Wanru said your injuries weren't nearly that severe. Recalling the past, I felt a wave of dizziness. The man Xuanning had longed for all these years. The one she was willing to bear the name of ingratitude to love, now she wouldn't marry him? No, she wouldn't. My mother wondered. I heard the Zhou family daughter had even embroidered her wedding gown. Upon hearing this news, she hanged herself and nearly couldn't be saved. Yet even so, the crown prince didn't go to see her once. I shook my head. Mother, I won't marry him. But if His Majesty decrees the marriage, how can we refuse? She frowned deeply. We'll have to beat the emperor to the punch and arrange a marriage for you first. But finding a suitable young master isn't so easy. I blinked, and a figure flashed through my mind. I do know someone who might be suitable. Does he harbor affection for you? Stepping into the palace, Mother's hesitant words still echoed in my ears. And I replied, though I don't particularly like him, he would certainly marry me. After all, in my past life, he had tried to tempt me into infidelity. His reasoning being, anything that displeases Xuanning, this prince delights in doing. Xuanning's most detested former fiancé had married his most hated rival. That man must be overjoyed. Lost in thought, a sudden sharp pain shot through my wrist. The guiding maid had slipped away unnoticed. Before me stood a deep, dark figure. His aura was gloomy. It was none other than Xuanning. He suddenly reached out, pinning me against his scorching chest. His breath trembled, his voice hoarse and choked, as if he intended to crush me to my very bones. Xiao Man. I pushed him away forcefully. Your Highness, please restrain yourself. He stepped back with the momentum but didn't release his grip. His eyes locked onto mine as tears suddenly fell. The crown prince had been born to the Eastern Palace, raised in luxury and privilege, revered by all, his every command obeyed, combining both lifetimes. This was only the second time I'd seen him cry. The first was when I was injured saving him. Xiao Man, are you still angry with me? Perhaps sensing my disgust, he frantically reached for my hand. It's my fault. I shouldn't have treated you coldly, scolded you, or broken off our engagement for that worthless woman. I've realized my mistakes and understood my own heart. It turns out I've always loved you. My pity for Zhou Wanru stems only from how her lively spirit mirrors yours before you were wounded. You suffered for me, and I carry guilt in my heart. He wept so hard he could barely speak, humbly pleading, forgive me this once. Let's start over. Will you? I studied his face and shook my head. I'd heard this speech before. In my past life. In my past life. Xuanning ultimately couldn't resist the emperor's will and was forced to become my betrothed. Yet when the betrothal documents were exchanged, only a eunuch was sent, a complete humiliation for my family. Later, when father learned Xuanning had skipped the ceremony to accompany Miss Zhou on a lake outing, he could no longer contain himself. He begged the emperor with his life, pleading for the decree to be revoked. The emperor flew into a rage, had Xuanning flogged, and bestowed the marriage upon Zhou Wanru. Half a month later, Xuanning slipped out and knocked on my window in the dead of night. He claimed he had finally seen the light. Realizing his feelings for Zhou Wanru were merely fleeting novelty, he vowed never to betray me again and begged for reconciliation. His Majesty had spoken, and as his subjects, we had no choice but to obey. Xuanning seemed to sense my coldness and truly reformed. Not only did he never mention Zhou Wanru again, but he spent every day by my side, strolling through spring landscapes, seeking willows, riding painted boats to admire the moon, just as before. Mother counseled me privately, men everywhere keep concubines. Even your father had several mistresses. Let alone the crown prince. As long as he holds you in his heart and ensures no other can cross that line, that is enough. A woman's life, after all, is about finding contentment. Love and affection, keep them tucked away in your heart. But never let them become an obsession. I took her words to heart. Yet it wasn't until Xuanning brought home Zhou Wanru, visibly pregnant, that I realized this had merely been his ploy to placate us. Though I couldn't fathom why Xuanning, who had achieved everything he desired in this lifetime, still insisted on such tactics. It no longer concerned me. Seeing me shake my head, all color drained from Xuanning's face. His lips trembled as he opened his mouth to speak, but I had already sidestepped to create distance, offering a cold, formal bow. This humble maiden must enter the palace to attend the emperor. Your Highness, please remain here lest you be delayed. As I departed, Xuanning's resentful gaze remained fixed on me, stinging like thorns in my back. The Empress's attendants intercepted me and escorted me to the inner palace. Incense burned within the chamber, its smoke curling upward. The Empress reclined upon her phoenix bed, a woman kneeling before her. When I bowed in greeting, our eyes met. It was Zhou Wanru. Purple bruises still marred her neck, yet her face remained clear and defiant, like a rain-drenched lotus leaf, vibrant and spirited. She shot me a furious glare. I glared back fiercely. Afraid of you? The Empress spoke lazily. Rise. Both of you. No need for formalities. Today, I come not as Empress, but as a mother, to plead for my royal son. They say one should marry for virtue, and this holds especially true for royalty. The crown princess will become Empress. The mother of the nation, not just any cat or dog can fill that role. After giving us a stern warning, she continued, Wanru is lively. Xiaoman is composed. I find both of you most pleasing. Then, taking my hand, she smiled warmly and said, Xiaoman, you are the most sensible of all. By rights, I should not meddle. But Wanru and Ning'er have already shared a physical bond. If Ning'er ignores her, it might spark rumors that the Eastern Palace lacks compassion. After much consideration, and since you've suffered health issues that limit your ability to bear children, Wanru's child could be raised under your care. If she becomes a secondary consort, Ning'er will be satisfied and will surely respect you in every way. What are your thoughts on this? My limbs grew cold, my heart plunging. So this was why Xuanning abruptly called off our betrothal. The Empress deemed the Zhou family too lowly for a principal consort. Yet she spared me out of gratitude for saving her life, unwilling to invite gossip. Thus she struck two birds with one stone, securing both moral righteousness and true love, while letting Xuanning enjoy the blessings of two wives. How could I ever consent to such a sacrifice? Just as I was about to speak, a sharp pain shot through my wrist. The Empress gripped my hand tightly, her smile gentle yet menacing. Xiaoman, matters of marriage require careful consideration before answering. Her tone dripped with threat. Cold sweat began to bead at my temples. But suddenly I heard, this servant refuses. Zhou Wanru knelt stubbornly, Bowing her head in supplication, this humble maiden knows her lowly status. Yet her highness and I share a mutual affection. Clearly, someone is scheming to force his highness to annul the betrothal and demote his wife to a concubine. Though Wanru is but a secondary daughter, she has studied the classics and knows shame. I implore your majesty to intervene. Otherwise, I shall never submit to this humiliation. I would rather shave my head and enter a convent. Her impassioned plea was like a series of slaps to the empress's face. I stifled a laugh and glanced up. True to form, the empress's face was as dark as iron, her fury snapping a nail. How dare you? My son and Xiaoman are truly meant for each other. Had you not deliberately seduced him? I promptly fell to my knees with a thud. My frail constitution meant this single movement left me drenched in cold sweat, teetering on the brink of collapse. The empress, startled, swallowed her words. Seizing the moment, I banged my head against the floor repeatedly. Resolve hardening within me, I gambled everything and cried out, "Your Majesty, this servant and his highness share only sibling affection. Nothing more. Moreover, this servant already has a beloved. I would never wish to separate his highness and Lady Zhou. I beg your majesty to grant this pair of lovers their wish." The room fell silent. The empress trembled with rage. "You speak in anger. You and Ninger have been childhood sweethearts since birth. How could you have another beloved?" "There is." I lowered my head, feigning bashfulness. "This humble maiden has long cherished Prince Xiao. My sole wish in this life is to marry him alone, to share a lifetime of devotion, bound by love and trust." "Oh!" A teasing voice suddenly echoed from outside the chamber. His Majesty and Prince Xiao entered, one behind the other. A tall, slender figure, as graceful as a bamboo shoot, stepped into the light before me. He bent down, swiftly closing the fan that had concealed his face. Revealed was a devilishly handsome, rebellious visage, which now scrutinized me without restraint. "So it is you who adores this prince, vowing to marry him even unto death?" Zhuo Xiao, the imperial uncle of Zhuaning. When His Majesty ascended the throne years ago, he was still a child. Thus, though he held the seniority of an uncle, he was only 7 or 8 years older than Zhuaning. Knowing he lacked the power to seize the throne, he contentedly lived as an idle prince, spending his days playing with cats and dogs, riding horses through the streets, and earning a notoriously poor reputation. He married 3 principal wives in succession, all of whom met untimely deaths, earning him the additional reputation of being a wife killer. Every eligible maiden in the capital avoided him like the plague, perhaps never having encountered someone so eager to court death. Zhuo Xiao's expression was thick with contempt. He leaned in so close I could see my own reflection in his eyes. Then again, a man who dared seduce his nephew's wife would surely have no qualms about violating propriety. Suppressing my urge to flee, I met his gaze. To outsiders, it must have looked like I was staring at him in a trance. Zhou Wanru, however, had already slipped into the inner chambers at the first opportunity. The empress's face darkened as she snapped, "Mang man, how dare you be so impolite?" Only then did I scramble to my feet and curtsy. My face flushed crimson. "Greetings, Your Majesty, Your Highness," I stammered. "This humble servant has behaved improperly before Your Majesty. I beg for your punishment." The emperor remained silent. Zhuo Xiao unfolded his fan and said with a smirk, "Why is my sister-in-law so upset? It's not like I'm going to eat her. Look how scared the little girl is, she's gone pale." The empress forced a smile. Prince Zhao barged in without announcement, nearly startling the ladies of the palace. "But since we're all family now, it's not entirely improper. Xiao Man, Wan Rou, come greet your imperial uncle." The words imperial uncle were pronounced with deliberate emphasis, like a warning directed at me. The emperor raised his hand to stop Zhou Wanrou from bowing. his suppressed anger palpable. "How long do you intend to indulge the crown prince's antics?" The empress retorted coldly, "Your Majesty, I merely wish to find a suitable match for Zhuor." "What is wrong with that? You are clearly acting out of self-interest." The emperor erupted violently, smashing a glass lamp. Instantly, palace attendants knelt everywhere, frozen in terror. I knelt as well, bending halfway, but was stopped. Zhuo Xiao tapped my shoulder with his fan, his phoenix-like eyes fluttering lightly, seemingly oblivious to the tense atmosphere. "Miss Meng appears unwell. This humble brother shall escort her out of the palace first." "Your Majesty, we shall resume our game another day." Zhou Wanru couldn't wait to interject. "They say Prince Xiao knows nothing of cherishing women, but it seems all his tenderness is reserved for Xiao Man. Wanru offers her early congratulations on your union, wishing you 100 years of bliss." Zhuo Xiao shot me a half-smile, then turned to Zhou Wanru, his expression turning serious. "Do not tarnish a lady's reputation. Miss Zhou, mind your words." Zhou Wanru bit her lip sharply, her gaze falling on Zhuo Xiao with disappointment. The emperor waved impatiently. "Everyone, withdraw." Though he claimed to escort me, Zhuo Xiao showed no intention of leading the way. He merely trailed lazily behind me, strolling at a leisurely pace, uncomfortable under his burning gaze. I stamped my foot, only to be instantly overshadowed by his tall figure. Even in this new life, offering myself was shameful enough. My heart pounded wildly, yet my voice emerged as thin as a mosquito's buzz. What I said before the emperor was true. "Your Highness, would you consider marrying me?" Zhuo Xiao reached out, his hand sweeping over my head to pluck a willow leaf. He toyed with it leisurely. A faint smile played at his lips, neither accepting nor refusing. His eyes, filled with amusement, swept over me from head to toe, and he couldn't help but chuckle. "You're too young." "Not too young," I insisted. "I'll be of age in half a year. I am a widower, hardly a suitable match for a young lady," he added, lowering his lashes. "Oh, and I'm known to bring misfortune to my wives. Are you not afraid?" Willow leaves swayed, casting sparse, elegant shadows that slanted across the room. It was as if he wore the flowing light itself, making him appear even more richly alluring. A pair of eyes, deep as pools, lay hidden behind the shadows, quietly watching me, the corners slightly curved. A chill ran through my heart. Why is this different from my past life? Could it be Zhuo Xiao favors married women? Panic seized me, and I declared with desperate resolve, "This humble maiden is of low fortune. If I could spend this life by your Highness's side, I would die content." No one dared challenge Xuanning except Zhuo Xiao. If he refused, I would rather shave my head and become a nun than ever again be associated with Xuanning. Zhuo Xiao's lips suddenly curved upward, as if he'd heard the most laughable joke. He tapped my head lightly with his fan. "Enough. Such words might fool others, but I demand sincerity. The truth is, the enemy of my enemy is my friend." I fixed my gaze on his eyes. "Xuanning regards me as his plaything. Whoever marries me becomes his thorn in the side." Within the capital, only His Royal Highness Prince Xiao possesses such resolve. Quite astute. His praise was lukewarm, as if he'd anticipated this all along. He took a few steps forward, then turned back, placing the woven flower crown upon my head with a smile. "Rest assured, Miss Meng, my consort is no one of shallow fortune. You shall surely enjoy boundless blessings and live 100 years." When I returned home, my legs still felt like jelly, and I drifted as if in a dream. Yet the jade pendant in my sleeve felt heavy and substantial. The characters Qihan were so deeply engraved, so vivid, that I traced them with my fingers hundreds of times, feeling their faint warmth. Zhuo Xiao's words still echoed in my ears. "Half a year hence, This prince shall bestow upon you the phoenix crown and crimson bridal robes. 100 miles of red wedding finery. After a moment of numbness, I finally snapped back to reality. For some reason, my heart pounded more fiercely than ever before. Yet immediately after, a voice filled with rage pierced the air. "Mang man!" And the frantic voices of the servants trying to stop him. "Your Highness! You mustn't!" The next second, my door was violently kicked open. Chuaning strode in, his face contorted. He seized my wrist with such force it nearly crushed my bones. "Wanru said you shamelessly confessed your love to Uncle Wang before Father Emperor. Tell me, is this true? What business is it of yours?" The pain made me gasp, and my anger stirred, causing sharp pangs in my chest. I couldn't help but sneer coldly. "Does being crown prince grant you the right to barge into the women's quarters? Tomorrow at court, I'll report you to father." Chuaning's eyes flashed with panic. He instinctively loosened his grip, switching from squeezing to rubbing, stroking gently, frantic and unsure what to do. I didn't mean to. Don't be angry. You'll ruin your health. Xiao Man, we've been childhood sweethearts for years. Even if we have minor disagreements, you shouldn't provoke me with other men. His voice grew deep and grave, his expression darkening into something terrifying, as if a bloodthirsty aura seeped from his very bones. "Especially Zhui Xiao, he's coveted you for ages, repeatedly seducing you with ulterior motives. You must stay far away from him." "Coveted me for ages? Repeatedly seduced me? Zhui Xiao avoids me like the plague. How could he be as despicable as he claims?" Suddenly, a thought flashed through my mind like lightning, connecting Xuaning's series of odd behaviors. Could it be Xuaning had also been reborn? The thought sent shivers down my spine. An indescribable sensation, part thrill, part agony, shot through my heart, making it pump harder. Just then, my father strode in, surrounded by servants, his voice resonant with laughter. "My household is in disarray. With such honored guests present, no one attended to you. Your Highness, please forgive this oversight. I have prepared a banquet in the warm pavilion. I invite you to join us." Only then did Xuanning release his grip. Upon hearing of Xiao Man's entry into the palace, I grew impatient and lost my composure. A faint smile played at his lips as he tilted his chin slightly, replying coolly, "The loyal Marquis, please do not blame me." My father forced a bitter smile. "Not at all. Not at all. To receive your Highness's favor is a blessing for my daughter." He then kept shooting meaningful glances my way. Gritting my teeth, I forced a smile. "Your Highness's command is deeply engraved in Mang Man's heart." Xuanning gazed at me with satisfaction, his eyes burning with passion. "I shall petition the Emperor to grant us a new marriage decree. Xiao Man, this time I will not betray you." I lowered my head in feigned modesty, hiding the mocking smile at the corner of my lips. Suddenly, I longed to see Xuaning's expression when he learned he'd have to address me as his imperial aunt. Little did I expect Zhui Xiao to act so swiftly. Within days, Mother found me, her face clouded with sorrow, and asked anxiously, "The suitable young man you mentioned, could it be His Highness Prince Xiao?" I nodded, her eyes brimming with sorrow. She blurted out an accusation. "My poor, unfortunate man. If not for that scoundrel Xuaning's treachery, how could you have been reduced to becoming a secondary wife to a widower? Is there truly no other way?" I offered a bitter smile. "Mother, since ancient times, commoners have never dared to challenge officials. Our family can barely protect itself. We mustn't drag others into this. All these years of splendor were but a flaming oil cauldron. To outsiders, I had long been Xuaning's private possession. Even if he grew tired of me and cast me aside, who would dare claim me as their own?" Thus, even when he annulled our betrothal, no one sought to marry me. Now that Xuanning is causing such a commotion by insisting on divorcing his wife to marry another, everyone is even more eager to avoid me. I said, Prince Xiao is the emperor's only surviving younger brother. All these years, he's repeatedly opposed Xuanning without punishment, proving the emperor holds some affection for him. Moreover, he's Xuanning's royal uncle. With this safeguard, Xuanning will show restraint when they meet and dare not act recklessly. He is the best choice. She hesitated, then spoke, but he is advanced in years. Surely he desires to have children. Childbirth is a perilous ordeal. How much suffering would you endure? I remained calm. We can simply select several concubines for him. Even if he were to meet a woman he truly loved in the future, I would willingly step aside. To have found a place of refuge is already a great blessing. I, your daughter, would not presume to ask for more. In my past life, Xuanning took his anger out on me because Zhou Wanru became his concubine. He stubbornly believed we were repaying favors with demands, forcing him into a position where he couldn't act freely. Because of this, he constantly opposed my father in the court. My father, out of consideration for me, repeatedly swallowed his pride. In the end, Xuanning even persuaded His Majesty to exile him to a harsh, remote region as an official, separated by thousands of miles. We could no longer be together. This was Xuanning's punishment for our family tearing apart their love. Yet as death approached, I felt a strange relief. Thankfully, the heavens are vast and the roads long. News of my passing would take ages to reach him. Mother sighed and nodded. At month's end, during the spring hunt, both Xuanning and Zhuxiao sent me invitations. Just as I was about to decline, Xuanning added a note saying he had prepared a grand gift and insisted I honor him with my presence. For the entire month, he sent messages almost daily, piling gifts into the storeroom to demonstrate his sincere apology. Even if he couldn't enter my home, he would wait outside for an hour after court each day, rain or shine. This caused the hearts of several neighboring ladies to flutter, while my own coldness toward him only made them gnash their teeth in resentment. Then, someone spread the rumor that I had publicly declared my love for Prince Xiao in the palace, only to be cruelly rejected. Instantly, gossip spread like wildfire throughout the city. Many whispered behind my back, calling me frivolous and reckless, pitying the crown prince for his unwavering devotion. Upon learning this, Xuanning seized the ringleaders the very next day. He had them dragged to the busiest market square and ordered one ear cut off. He declared that anyone who repeated the rumors would face the same punishment, regardless of status. Zhuxiao also composed poetry at a tea house. His line, "A graceful lady, a gentleman's ideal mate," turned their hidden animosity into open conflict. Court and commoners alike were embroiled in the fierce battle, though the rumors died down. My parents were so terrified they ran high fevers for days. After recovering, they couldn't praise Zhuxiao enough. Luyan secretly told me that in the capital, some had even opened gambling dens, betting on how long it would take the crown prince to win the beauty's hand. Another equally popular wager was when Zhou Wanru would move into the Eastern Palace. During this month when Xuanning pursued me relentlessly, Zhou Wanru was equally busy. Her engagement had been annulled, leaving her utterly disgraced. By all logic, she should have kept a low profile. Yet she defiantly opened an herbal pharmacy, specializing in treating women's minor ailments like headaches and fevers. For impoverished patients, she charged nothing. Over time, the stigma faded, and she was instead hailed as a compassionate saint. Though Xuanning remained cold toward her, the empress had bestowed several favors upon her, a clear signal of a potential turnaround. The question of who would become the crown prince's consort grew increasingly uncertain. Luyan stood by as I wrote my reply, her expression troubled. "Miss, the hunting grounds are perilous. Your health cannot bear the cold. Why must you join the spectacle? To demonstrate my worth? Of course. I dried the ink on the paper, slipped an exquisitely embroidered sachet into the envelope, and handed it to Lu Yun. On the day of the spring hunt, I wrapped myself in fox fur and stepped out. 2 carriages already waited before the mansion. The curtain bearing the crown prince's emblem was lifted from within, revealing Zhou Wanru's face. As delicate and charming as a flower. She too wore a snow-white gown, a pure pear blossom hairpin adorning her forehead. Her makeup, a departure from her usual dazzling radiance, now radiated an ethereal elegance, perfectly befitting her status as a sacred maiden. Lu Yun muttered indignantly, "Miss. She's shameless. She's actually imitating you." Standing by was Xue Yin, Xuanning's most trusted personal maid. Now, she had been assigned to serve Zhou Wanru. She declared loudly, "Our Miss Wanru possesses the grace of orchids and the heart of a magnolia, utterly unlike those who chase empty fame. Even if they both wear white. One is heavenly cloud. The other mere cotton, utterly incomparable." Zhou Wanru chuckled softly. "Xue Yin. Enough. Miss Meng is sensitive. If she takes offense and falls ill, the guilt would be too great." Then she turned to me and explained softly, "Her Majesty the Empress is concerned about your poor health and specifically instructed me to look after you. The prince's carriage is spacious. Why don't we keep each other company and pass the time chatting?" She shifted to reveal the carriage's interior, exquisitely decorated. Clearly a labor of love. Much of the arrangement far exceeded the standards for a crown prince. A testament to her thoughtful intentions. Gazing at Zhou Wanru's face, I suddenly realized how truly clever she was. In my past life, she had firmly captured Xuanning's heart. Though only a concubine, she held the status of a principal consort. In this life, finding she could not win Xuanning's affection, she swiftly reinvented herself and aligned with the Empress. Look at this gentle, proper demeanor, where is even a trace of the passionate abandon Xuanning once adored? Too bad she picked the wrong person to fight. This lifetime, I have no intention of getting entangled in her schemes. No need. I prefer quiet. I fear we'd have little to say to each other." I walked to another, unremarkable carriage. Behind the curtain, indeed, leaned a man who looked like a demon. Chua Xiao's dark hair fell loosely down his back. His raven lashes lifted slightly, a faint smile playing at his lips as he toyed with the sachets I had gifted him. "You kept me waiting," he murmured, fastening the sachets back onto his fan pendant. Tilting his head, he gazed at me intently and chuckled softly. "Princess consort." Inside the carriage, a tray held tea, pastries, and melons, all my favorites. I paused, then sensibly picked up a piece. "Your Highness, thank you for your thoughtfulness. I am truly flattered." His lips curved upward as he propped his cheek with a hand. "Why still call me Your Highness?" "Qi Han." Chua Xiao narrowed his eyes with satisfaction. "Thanks to you, Princess Consort. I've been treated to a splendid spectacle of a cornered dog lashing out." Yet the faint dark circles beneath his eyes betrayed that the matter was far from as effortless as he made it sound. Though I couldn't fathom what Chua Xiao was scheming, I declared for my own protection. "This humble maiden's health is poor, and I fear I cannot bear the prince's heir. Should your highness find a suitable woman in the future, whether you bring her into the mansion or arrange for her elsewhere, I shall raise no objection. I will not be jealous or resentful. Please rest assured, your highness, even if the new mistress desires the position of princess consort, this humble maiden would willingly request to leave the household. To simply find shelter beneath a single eave within the prince's residence would suffice." Upon hearing this, Chua Xiao's expression turned peculiar, his exquisite features twitching slightly. After a moment, he pressed his clenched fist to his lips and gave a light cough. "Fear not. I have said I will marry you. The entire Zhuoxiao residence will naturally recognize only you as mistress." He idly toyed with his folding fan before suddenly adding, Besides, I am not Xuanning. The air suddenly grew still and thick. Beyond the clatter of hooves, only their breaths remained, deep and shallow, making ears burn involuntarily. I felt inexplicably flustered and stammered a reply. Shui Xiao lowered his head, letting out a soft chuckle. The carriage entered the hunting grounds, but the driver was stopped. Guards whispered reports to Shui Xiao outside the carriage. My sharp ears caught fragments. Crown Prince. Halted carriage. Inspection. The next moment, galloping sounds approached from afar. A sharp crack of whip echoed, startling the horses into a jolt. Caught off guard, I tumbled into Shui Xiao's embrace. The deafening thud of his heartbeat pounded against my ear as Xuanning's voice rang out. Cold and menacing. My crown prince consort has vanished. Might the villain who abducted her be aboard your royal highness's carriage? Might I request your indulgence to allow your nephew to conduct a search? Cold sweat beaded on my palms. Yet Shui Xiao showed no sign of tension. Leaning casually against the carriage, he replied, that would be rather inconvenient. Outside fell silent. Xuanning sneered. Could it be there's something shameful inside? Not at all. Shui Xiao answered. My betrothed is merely timid and shy, unaccustomed to strangers. She prefers not to be seen. He turned to stare at me, mouthing silently, relax. My body stiffened. I braced myself for Shui Xiao to parade me out and provoke Xuanning's fury. Yet he chose evasion instead. Outside the carriage, Xuanning indeed held his ground. But his suspicion had clearly reached its peak. With a pained shriek, he demanded harshly, did you see clearly? Is this the carriage? Xuanning stammered fearfully, Your Highness. I don't remember. Fool! Xuanning's rage boiled over. He drew a dagger and thrust it downward with brutal force. Wasn't your tongue sharp enough when mocking her? If you can't speak, then you're useless. Blood spurted like a fountain, splattering against the carriage window. The horrifying scream made me flinch backward, creating a slight noise. Xiao man, is that you? Xuanning's arm shot out, the shadows distorting around him like a clawing, snarling beast desperate to tear through the window and devour someone. Shui Xiao gripped his arm firmly. Hidden behind Shui Xiao, I heard his icy voice. Your Highness, you have overstepped again. Uncle Wang, forgive me. Xuanning showed no remorse as he spurred his horse and turned, then abruptly looked back. His piercing gaze seemed to pierce through the carriage curtain, fixing on me. Xiao man, no matter where you flee to the ends of the earth, I will find you. I will spend the rest of my life atoning for my sins. My heart skipped a beat. I bit down hard on my lip, a sharp ache twisting in my chest. When I came to my senses, the taste of blood mingled with the scent of medicine in my mouth. 2 rows of bleeding tooth marks remained on Shui Xiao's fingertips. He sighed softly, tucking the medicine bottle back into his sleeve. Are you that afraid of him? I shook my head, my face pale. He looked pensive. Don't worry. I'll handle everything. You'll enter the family with peace of mind. Only then did I notice he wore a form-fitting riding outfit beneath his cloak. The deep black fabric accentuated his towering stature, broad shoulders, and the taut, sculpted lines of his movements. Shui Xiao bent to pick up the quiver. The crossbow, weighing several stone, felt weightless in his palm. I instinctively grabbed the hem of his robe. Shui Xiao raised an eyebrow. I pressed my lips together, meeting his gaze firmly. Could you hurry? What? Shui Xiao looked puzzled at first. Then his eyes widened slightly. A playful smile touched his peerlessly handsome face. Fine. Shortly after he dismounted, Lu Yun slipped inside. Miss, I've heard that whoever wins the spring hunt will be granted a wish by His Majesty. If Prince Zhao requests an imperial decree for a marriage, his word is law. Even the crown prince couldn't override it. I was utterly taken aback. Why would the emperor make such a risky promise out of the blue? He clearly made this bet out of spite toward Xuanning's absurdity. If Xuanning wins, forcing him to reverse his decree overnight, doesn't he fear losing all his authority? Besides, Xuanning received imperial education since childhood, mastering every art of the gentleman. Xue Xiao, however, has mediocre achievements and no known special talents. Can he win? My heart pounded as I followed the palace maid to the women's seating area. Before I drew near, I heard a circle of ladies gathered around Zhou Wanru. She stood like the moon surrounded by stars, speaking softly and deliberately. I've reviewed Miss Meng's pulse records. Her heart ailment isn't beyond cure. Perhaps she simply refuses treatment. Zhou Wanru's delicate brows furrowed slightly, yet the gaze she cast over the crowd held unadorned hostility. Oh my! Miss Meng isn't frail? How did she manage to come? The crowd shifted their gaze, and a noble lady covered her mouth with a soft laugh. It seems this heart ailment only flares up at certain times. With His Royal Highness the Crown Prince absent now. Poor thing, who is she putting on this act for? Luyan fumed. Stop making baseless accusations. Just because you've read a few medical texts, you think you can rival the imperial physician? Zhou Wanru sneered coldly. If I don't exaggerate my condition, how could I claim this life-saving favor? I looked at her, lifting my lips in scorn. If you're so convinced, why not follow Xuanning into the woods now and take an arrow for him? If you're lucky enough to survive, you'll become a guest of honor in the Eastern Palace, dare you? Who would sacrifice their health for Xuanning? Is his life worth that much? I once excelled at Kuju, but after falling ill, I was forbidden to play. I could only watch the young maids chasing each other in the courtyard, secretly envious. Had I known that arrow would bind me to a sickbed for the rest of my life, ending without a good death, I would have stopped myself from rushing toward Xuanning the very first moment. Nor would I have cherished that so-called life-saving favor. Xuanning's love for me, that was the true favor. His hatred for me would become enmity. Zhou Wanru's face flushed crimson as she forced herself to speak. What is there to fear? It was only through my medical skill that His Highness preserved his right leg. I simply disdained to exploit that favor for gain, yet you exploited my very restraint. Her mention of saving his life reminded me of something. Xuanning had been saved by Zhou Wanru because, during an outing, he'd heard a woman scream. Distracted, he'd lost his footing and tumbled down. Thus, in his previous life, whenever his leg pain became unbearable, he would fly into a rage. He ordered that even if they had to turn over every inch of earth, they must find the woman who caused his leg to be severed. He vowed to flay her skin and break her bones to satisfy his hatred. Yet, they never found her. Not until just before I went into labor did a guard seek an audience. He reported that on that mountain that day, there had been only one woman, Zhou Wanru, gathering herbs. He dared not report it to him, so he revealed the truth to me instead, leaving the matter to my judgment. I was about to send men to investigate when, that very night, my water broke. As I struggled through labor, Zhou Wanru burst in. Looking back now, perhaps her urgency was also meant to silence me. Under my meaningful gaze, Zhou Wanru grew flustered. But I smiled. Xuanning has long told me you're unlike other ladies of the inner quarters, bold beyond compare. Even I never imagined you'd dare to go this far, disguising enmity as kindness, and still make it sound plausible. You. What do you mean? She couldn't help but stumble back 2 steps. Meng man, don't get too cocky too soon. His Highness said he'll take first place in this spring hunt and give me a surprise. Once I become crown princess, you'll pay for your words today. A surprise? Could Xuanning's great gift possibly be? My gaze shifted to the dense forest. Mid-air, a flock of wild birds scattered in alarm. Instantly, a volley of long arrows shot up from below, piercing through the birds' chests with swift, Merciless precision, not a single one missed. The ceremonial officer trotted to the wooden tally board and added a mark beneath the nameplate. I read the inscription and paled slightly. Report, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince has captured a pair of hares. And a red fox. The young eunuch eagerly presented the 2 hares to the emperor, while the ceremonial officer added another stroke to the tally. Chuaning's plaque was already so full there was no space left to write, while Shui Xiao's remained completely blank. From the moment the whistle blew until now, he hadn't even caught a single sparrow. Zhou Wanru had long since worn a confident smile of assured victory, shooting me a smug glance. Does someone regret setting their sights on a mere ornament that day in the palace? Too late for regrets now. The Empress favors me more. Your Meng family's dream of a father's prestige through his daughter's glory will likely shatter. The sun sank low in the west, its dying glow like blood. A brilliant crimson halo hung halfway over the pitch-black treetops, casting a desolate chill. A cool breeze stirred. Floating cloud draped a fox-fur cloak around me and whispered, "Miss, the Empress invites you and Miss Zhou to tea." Inside the tent, the Empress beckoned Zhou Wanru to sit beside her. I kept my gaze fixed straight ahead, seated calmly in my place. After exchanging private words while ignoring me, the Empress finally seemed to notice my presence and smiled as she offered tea. Look at me, so engrossed in talking with Wanru. I'd completely forgotten Miss Meng was present. Xiao Man, you and Ninger grew up together, your bond is extraordinary. Though you're not easily conceived. If you're willing to be sisters with Wanru, I wouldn't mind petitioning His Majesty to make you the Crown Prince's secondary consort. Zhou Wanru lowered her face at the perfect moment, revealing her fair neck as she murmured bashfully, "Miss Meng and His Highness have known each other since childhood. She understands his preferences better. I truly fear I might fail to win my husband's affection. Having a sister to assist would be most welcome." "What husband?" Outside the curtain, a man's voice rang out, brimming with amusement. "Greetings, Mother." Chuaning strode in, his silver armor accentuating his radiant spirit and commanding presence. The attendant reported with a smile, "Victory is assured." His Highness feared the Empress Dowager might worry, so he withdrew early. Zhou Wanru flushed the moment she saw him, stammering, "Your Highness." Chuaning, however, fixed his gaze on me, his voice tender as he called, "Xiao Man." I responded coolly, "Crown Prince." The Empress surveyed him from head to toe, sighing with relief. "Thank goodness you're unharmed. You had your mother worried sick. Thankfully Wanru was there to accompany you, Ninger. I think this child is quite suitable." Chuaning's smile faded. He coldly withdrew from the Empress's grasp. "Mother, I have declared I will marry only Meng Man in this lifetime." Zhou Wanru's face drained of color, her body swaying as if about to collapse. The Empress hissed, "Ninger, enough. Have you been poisoning Mother's mind again?" Chuaning's icy gaze bore into Zhou Wanru, his words devoid of any warmth. "Mother may be benevolent, but I know how cruel your heart truly is. If you persist in this, do not blame me for being harsh." Zhou Wanru suddenly burst into tears. She knelt before Xuaning, sobbing bitterly. "Your Highness, how can you be so heartless to Wanru? Just a month ago, you were with me, enjoying the moon and flowers, swearing eternal love. Why has everything changed now?" As if suddenly realizing something, she pointed at me with venom. "Did Meng Man force you?" Chuaning kicked her away impatiently. "What are you?" "From the very beginning, the one I've always loved is Xiao Man." The once cherished jewel now met with cold indifference. How ironic were Xuaning's repeated declarations of love. I sneered, "Your Highness." Xuaning rushed over, his chest heaving as he hesitated, words caught in his throat. He seemed almost flustered, vigorously wiping the bloodstains from his silver armor with his sleeve, as if afraid it might soil my eyes. "Xiao Man." His eyes reddened as he repeated, Xiao Man. I'm here. I sighed. Our betrothal was annulled long ago. And there's no affection left between us. Why put on this charade? If you fear I might seek repayment for my debt. Mang Man can swear here, 10 years ago. I risked my life to save you purely out of kindness. Anyone would have done the same. I certainly won't use it to scheme now. Your Highness. You may rest assured. No. How could I doubt you? Chuanning panicked. I was prepared. So he only managed to grab the corner of my sleeve, clutching it tightly in his palm. His voice hoarse and rough. I won't let you say that. How could there be no bond between us? We were childhood sweethearts. How could you abandon me? Let go. He gritted his teeth, veins bulging on his temples, his eyes flashing with a blood-red murderous intent. Suddenly releasing his grip, he yanked Zhou Wanru toward him, pressing the blade against her throat. Zhou Wanru shrieked, only to be pressed down without hesitation the next second. A trail of blood seeping from her neck. Is it because of her? Chuanning looked at my panicked face and smiled, his tone tender and affectionate. I killed her for you. Xiao Man. Let's make up. Ninger. Let go. The Empress cried, her face drained of color. Zhou Wanru wept uncontrollably. Your Highness. I saved you too. Your Highness. You can't be so heartless. Chuanning's finger twitched. After a moment's hesitation, a servant burst in frantically. Bad news. Your Highness. Prince Xiao has emerged. Chuanning snapped impatiently, so he's out. What's the big fuss? The servant hesitated, then whispered, you should go see for yourself. Your Highness. It seems. He won. Chuanning frowned and strode out first. I breathed a sigh of relief. On the grassland, a mountain of game lay piled high. The ceremonial officer mechanically chanted the tally. Prince Xiao had bagged 3 gray wolves, 1 wild deer, 2 silver foxes, a pair of wild geese. Zhuo Xiao was covered in dust and blood, yet his face alone remained clean and fresh, as if freshly washed. Droplets of water clung to his jet-black hair. Noticing the commotion, he turned his head. His sharp, sword-like eyebrows arched slightly. With arms crossed in a faint, ambiguous smile, he whistled. My clever nephew. Those horsemanship and archery lessons? This prince mastered them 8 years ago. Chuanning's expression darkened abruptly. The emperor approached with a hearty laugh. Patting Chuanning's shoulder, this boy has always excelled at everything. Yet he lacks patience. Zhuo Xiao smiled too. Youthful passion is easily drawn to novelty. Unlike your humble brother, who has already traversed 1,000 mountains. He suddenly knelt before the assembled court and declared in a clear voice. Your servant has long admired Lady Meng. Today I dare to request the emperor's permission for marriage. The emperor's eyes were deep and inscrutable. He only asked, have you considered this carefully? Yet the next instant, a blur swept past like the wind, landing straight before Zhuo Xiao. Chuanning paled as if stabbed, his eyes blazing crimson, so red the corners seemed torn, ready to spill blood tears at any moment. Who? His voice cracked hoarsely. He yanked Zhuo Xiao's collar, pulling him forward by the chest and roared furiously. Who do you intend to marry? Ninger. Control yourself. The Empress rushed forward to pull him back. But Chuanning didn't budge an inch. The veins on his knuckles bulged. His grip so tight his knuckles turned white. Zhuo Xiao remained utterly unflustered, gazing at him calmly. He spoke clearly, enunciating each word distinctly, the eldest daughter of the Meng family. Meng Man. Chuanning felt as if he'd been struck by a club, gasping for breath. His face contorted, his eyes blazing with deep, seething hatred. Suddenly, he too turned and knelt. Father, please grant me and Xiao Man's marriage. The emperor's face darkened with fury. You fool. Such a momentous decision is no place for childish games. Xuanning lowered his head. His voice deep and solemn, "Your son is serious." In that instant, every gaze in the hall turned toward me. Excitement, confusion, jealousy, hatred. Zhou Wanru stood frozen, her face as pure and noble as a saint's, yet cold as stone, expressionless, as if utterly disillusioned. Yet her hands, hanging at her sides, clenched into fists so tightly her long fingernails pierced her palms. Noticing my gaze, she suddenly lifted the corners of her lips in a mocking smile. "Very pleased with yourself, aren't you? Congratulations. You won." I smiled too. How many times must I say it before you understand? I have no interest whatsoever in your crown prince. Then, without hesitation, I walked to Zhuxiao's side and knelt. I mimicked his posture, bowing my head respectfully. "I beg your majesty's favor." The emperor smiled. "Granted." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Xuanning's body jerk violently as he suddenly coughed up a large mouthful of blood. After the imperial physician examined him, he declared Xuanning had been consumed by jealousy and subtly advised him to cultivate his temperament. Inside the crown prince's residence, upon hearing I was coming, Xuanning forced himself to rise despite his illness. His face was pale and haggard, as if afflicted by a grave sickness. "Xiao man," he murmured, reaching out to me with hopeful eyes. "I knew you'd come to see me. You were just sulking at me, weren't you?" "I'm only here at Her Majesty the Empress Dowager's request." I sat coldly by his side, watching his pitiful, pleading expression, and suddenly found it amusing. Why put on this act? No one forced you to break off the engagement back then. Back then, I was bewitched, Xuanning murmured, his pained expression seeming genuine. "But Xiaoman, I'm just so exhausted. Every time I came to your residence, you were either taking medicine or needing quiet rest. Spring outings, summer boat rides, autumn flower viewing, winter snow poetry. None of these were possible because your body couldn't endure them. Watching you stare blankly at the willow trees outside the courtyard, I felt both ashamed and powerless, cursing you for saving me. When I came to my senses, I blamed myself, knowing full well none of this was your fault. Yet being by your side always made me feel suffocated, desperate to escape. Back then, seeing Wanru felt like encountering another you, your complete opposite. She didn't need my cautious care or empty promises. The less she wanted, the more I longed to lay everything at her feet. Only now do I realize I was merely compensating for you through her. His tears fell for the third time, soaking his clothes as he glared at me through clenched teeth. "I only escaped briefly. I only made this one mistake. Must you punish me like this?" My heart grew cold. Colder still, long since devoid of warmth. Spring outings, boat rides, flower viewing, snow poetry. I looked at Xuanning. "None of these can be done. Not for you, but for me. Xuanning, without you, I would be happier." He stared at me as if struck by lightning, utterly incredulous. I looked at him, enunciating each word deliberately. "How do you expect me to forgive you? Forget how you defied the imperial decree to annul our betrothal for Zhou Wanru, making the Meng family a laughingstock in the capital? Forget how you enabled Zhou Wanru to oppose me, stealing my medicinal herbs? Or forget how you consorted with her without a matchmaker, mockingly declaring our fate was severed and I should cease my clinging? Or perhaps, when you said my life-saving act was nothing but self-delusion, and that I should know my place and die quickly? Did I not know that keeping him by my side would only erode our bond? But after finally recovering my health, when I eagerly sought Xuanning out, I heard him say, "Every time I see her sickly face, it brings me bad luck." Truth be told, even if she hadn't saved me that day, I wouldn't have been any worse off. The aristocratic young men around him smirked. Little man is so frail. Won't your wedding night wear her to death? Xuanning sneered with disgust. Better if she did. If she had any sense, she'd have annulled the engagement the moment she could. Sparing herself the burden of dragging me down, how could the crown prince's consort be such a sickly weakling? Words that once pierced my heart now leave me utterly unmoved. But I still wanted to make Xuanning suffer, not because I wanted him to reignite his love for me, nor to make him regret through self-torture. I wanted to tell him, from the very beginning, he was nothing but scum. You once said that if you weren't the crown prince, I wouldn't have saved you. You were right. I rose and scrutinized him from head to toe, examining him thoroughly. Under my gaze, Xuanning began to tremble slightly. His lips trembled, yet he could not utter a single coherent word. Xuanning, you are of noble blood. So you always believed everyone who approached you had ulterior motives. Only Zhou Wanru was pure and open-hearted, as clear as the wind and bright as the moon. But do you know? That day you stumbled off the cliff, it was because of her. I thought of the child she drowned in my past life, and my eyes crinkled with laughter. You were led around by her nose, holding her on a pedestal, committing every foolish act, yet always with some excuse. How foolish. I heard that after I left. Xuanning collapsed with a thud. The Eastern Palace burned with lights all night, filled with imperial physicians. Even His Majesty and the Empress were alarmed. Disregarding his own health, the Emperor personally struck the barely breathing Xuanning. He spat out a threat, let him die. A crown prince, clinging to life for a woman? From this day forward, I shall consider you no son. Perhaps the scolding jolted him awake. The first thing Xuanning did after recovering was take Zhou Wanru as his concubine. I did not attend the ceremony that day, but ladies I know recounted that Xuanning ordered Zhou Wanru to step over a brazier. The coals burned fiercely, catching the hem of her skirt. Thus, the entire Eastern Palace witnessed the calves beneath the pink skirt of the new consort Zhou. That very night, Xuanning broke her leg, accusing her of immorality. He forbade her from seeking medical help or using the household's medicinal supplies. He literally dragged her leg until she was crippled. As they recounted this scene, they all shuddered in horror, saying they never imagined the prince could be so cruel and obsessive. Who knew how much suffering Zhou Wanru would endure after marrying him? They all laughed and congratulated me. We hear Prince Xiao has handled several important matters and received the emperor's reward. Xiao man, this time you're finally marrying a suitable husband. As for Xuanning, his 2 rejections and 3 marriages had thoroughly angered the emperor, who ordered him confined to his quarters for reflection. I calmly embroidered mandarin ducks on the handkerchief, dotting their eyes before murmuring, yes, life truly plays cruel tricks. After all these twists and turns, they'd come full circle. How could this not be a match made in heaven? The next day, while boating with Shui Xiao, he idly paddled and glanced at me with puzzlement upon hearing this. His stare made me uncomfortable. What is it? Nothing, he replied, raising an eyebrow. I just didn't expect you to be so rational. Even my first thought upon hearing this was that Xuanning was seeking revenge for Zhou Wanru stealing your medicinal herbs. I replied calmly, because I know he loves only himself. Perhaps he doesn't see it that way. Shui Xiao gestured toward me. Following his gaze, I spotted a man in white robes standing on another boat dozens of meters away, staring intently in our direction. His lips moved silently, through the tacit understanding of 2 lifetimes as childhood sweethearts. I instantly understood. You'll never marry him. Xiao man, I will win. Xuanning? After just a few days apart, how had he managed to look like a ghost? Shui Xiao suddenly said, hold on tight. The next second, an arrow whizzed past our boat, grazing it before splashing into the water with a final, reluctant plop. Shui Xiao pulled me into the cabin, but I still couldn't process it. shooting at a prince of the current dynasty? Has he lost his mind? Perhaps he finally realized his own ship was unstable, desperately trying to drag others down with him. A smile lingered at Zhuo Xiao's lips. Though his eyes were wary, his movements were remarkably composed, as if he'd anticipated this very scenario. I understood, you invited me out to deliberately provoke him? His smile vanished abruptly. He frowned, staring at me, about to speak. The ship lurched violently. He twisted toward me, knocking me and a basket of freshly picked lotus seeds to the deck. Zhuo Xiao braced himself above me, his gathered hair trailing like willow tips. His jet-black locks hung like ribbons, still damp with moisture. His eyes were partially obscured by strands of hair, each lash distinct. Even the slightest tremor was clear to me. My gaze was drawn to those crimson, thin lips. The corners, like the faintest brushstroke of a wolf hairbrush, naturally curved upward, not particularly pleasing. Without the balancing warmth of those phoenix eyes brimming with affection, they seemed unnaturally sharp, as if they could slit a throat. Mang Man. His lips moved, the sound barely audible. A soft sigh escaped first, cutting off the unspoken words. He rose, gathering the scattered lotus seeds. His movements grew hesitant. Turning his back to me, he suddenly asked, "Lotus seeds are bitter. How many years have you been drinking medicinal soups?" I replied calmly, "You get used to it." Starting with that arrow, Chuaning completely tore off his mask, launching relentless attacks against Zhuo Xiao. He bore the burden of guilt, volunteering for the most grueling assignments. He executed them flawlessly, returning to court in triumphant splendor. Amidst the emperor's praise and colleagues' congratulations, he remained cool and composed. Yet his gaze swept past the crowd, resting faintly upon Zhuo Xiao. "I hear the imperial uncle and Miss Meng are soon to be wed," he remarked with casual indifference. "Congratulations." Zhuo Xiao fanned himself, letting the dangling sachets sway back and forth, drawing Zhuaning's gaze. "Shared joy indeed," he said with a smile. "I heard from Xiaoman that consort Zhou in your household is with child. For such an unsightly affair to arise before the crown princess has even entered the palace, your highness must handle this properly to avoid tarnishing your reputation." Chuaning stared fixedly at the sachets, his eyes blazing with murderous intent. Yet his voice remained polite. "Thank you for your concern, uncle. Wanru's pregnancy is no easy matter. I shall see to her well." The emperor sat upon the high seat. "Enough. What's done is done. No more of your old foolishness. Ninger is still young, he needs your guidance." After court adjourned, father discussed the matter anxiously with mother. "I've come to realize, the emperor likely intends to use Prince Xiao as a test case for the crown prince." "No. Absolutely not. This marriage must be called off. Even if Xiao Man remains an old maid at home, she must never be entangled in these imperial affairs again." Mother panicked and scolded him. "We can't afford to offend the crown prince." "But Prince Xiao is fair game? A starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Who do you think you are, Meng Zhao, to pick and choose like this?" Father seemed to age 10 years in an instant. What a calamity. The Meng family has served as loyal subjects for generations. Yet now we've rescued a disaster. Chuaning is petty and unforgiving. If he ascends the throne, how could the Meng family ever know peace? With that, tears streamed down his aged face. Mother sighed, then let Xiaoman marry far away. Out of reach. Her longing will fade. Hearing this, I stepped out from my hiding place in the corner. "Father, Mother, your daughter has something to say." I whispered softly, "Father, as the Marquis of Loyalty, your loyalty is to the sovereign, not the crown prince. And certainly not Zhuaning." My parents' expressions shifted. Mother rushed forward, covering my mouth with her hand. Father scrutinized me warily for a moment before whispering, Does Prince Xiao harbor ambitions too? I shook my head gently. That day in the Empress's chambers, the Emperor had rebuked her, "You're clearly acting out of self-interest." Those words had always puzzled me. Before her rebirth, Chuaning insisted on marrying Zhou Wanru. The Empress refused, insisting I become the principal consort instead. After her rebirth, Chuaning ignored Zhou Wanru entirely. Yet the Empress stubbornly pushed her onto Xuaning. I once thought her actions stemmed from considerations of status or gratitude. But now I see it was not so. When I finally pressed Zhuo Xiao for answers, he did not reveal everything outright. Instead, he told me a story. Once upon a time, the Emperor and the Empress were childhood sweethearts. Yet the Emperor was merely one among many imperial princes, while the Empress was the legitimate daughter of a general. Whoever married her would gain the greatest advantage in the succession struggle. But while the suitor was smitten, the lady remained indifferent. Long ago, the Empress had been betrothed to another, inseparable as glue and lacquer, turning a blind eye to the Emperor's advances. On their wedding day, the Emperor staged a palace coup. The Empress's betrothed died defending his former master in the ensuing chaos. The newlywed chamber welcomed its second occupant. Though resigned to her fate as the legitimate daughter of a noble house, the Empress harbored a deep, hidden resentment toward the Emperor. Thus, when faced with a legitimate son bearing a striking resemblance to His Majesty, she was torn. Part of her yearned to fulfill his destiny, to mend the regret in her heart, yet also sought to punish him, feeding her twisted hatred. Originally, this was merely a story. But at the tale's end, Zhuo Xiao casually added a sentence. Your imperial brother showed your imperial sister-in-law genuine devotion. Yet human hearts are fickle, prolonged frustration breeds resentment. Just as Xuanning harbors a demonic obsession toward you. The Emperor's probing of the Empress continued. Claiming illness, he entrusted the crown prince with regency duties. Xuanning immediately targeted Zhuo Xiao. 2 months before my coming-of-age ceremony, he transferred Zhuo Xiao out of the capital. Zhuo Xiao never disclosed the exact assignment, but it was undoubtedly perilous. His departure coincided with the peak of summer. Defying my friend's pleas, I insisted on seeing him off. After just 2 steps, sweat drenched my back, and the stifling heat made breathing difficult. Suddenly, a cool breeze swept over me as dark clouds obscured the sky. I stopped and saw Zhuo Xiao had raised his wide sleeve to shield me from the scorching sun. His other hand gently fanned me, his eyes twinkling mischievously. No need for farewells, he said softly. His face showed no trace of worry. With utter ease, he murmured softly, when the maple leaves turn crimson. I shall return to marry you. Who's worried about you? Frowning, I whispered, have you truly made no preparations to deal with Xuanning? If you die, what will become of me? His laughter grew wilder, his hair glistening in the sunlight, his eyes as dark as ink. If I die, you needn't mourn me. Better to yield to Xuanning. Bide your time, and plan your next move. He actually considered it seriously. Wait until passion fades and mutual weariness sets in. Then cling to wealth and honor, spending your lonely yet complete remaining years. How about it? I shot him a reproachful glance. Guards came to urge him on. Zhuo Xiao looked at me one last time, then suddenly drew a hairpin from his robe and fastened it in my hair. My vision blurred as he leapt onto his horse. It felt as though an invisible thread had been pulled from my heart. I hurried forward 2 steps, clutching my chest and calling out, Zhuo Xiao. But perhaps the clatter of hooves was too loud, or perhaps my voice was too faint, that figure did not turn back. Lu Yin raised the parasol over me, urging with concern, let's hurry back. Miss. Just as I turned, a neigh grew louder from afar. Zhuo Xiao, breathing heavily, reined in his horse and halted before me. Seated upright against the light, his gaze felt tangible, settling on my slightly reddened eyes. He teased. I haven't even left yet. And you're already crying? My cheeks flushed. Don't you dare die. He paused, his expression softening abruptly. Then he leaned down, his fingertip gently brushing my temple, wiping away the single tear. I'll try. Zhuoxiao left. But the steward he left behind continued delivering gifts to the Meng residents daily. Sometimes it was a priceless night pearl. Sometimes it was an amusing illustrated storybook. Sometimes it was an exquisite screen depicting court ladies. I truly had no idea where he sourced all these things. Not a single day passed with a duplicate. The steward said with a smile. The prince instructed that with his busy official duties and the vast distances between us, he fears he may be unable to exchange letters with the young lady. Worried she might miss him, he specially gathered these 2 baskets of gifts to help pass her time. When the young lady grows weary of them, His Highness will have returned. Both wait and return carry profound weight, often laden with deep affection and longing. I never felt my relationship with Zhuoxiao was so intimate. Yet perhaps because so many spoke of it, I found myself, without realizing it, gazing blankly out the window. Even the summer breeze seemed tinged with distant autumn longing. I never saw Zhuoxiao return, but instead witnessed Xuanning's betrothal. Xuanning threatened suicide to prevent the empress from aborting Zhou Wanru's child. The compromise between mother and son resulted in Xuanning marrying the empress's niece as his principal consort. The woman possessed a face like a flower and a moon, and her talents were truly outstanding. On the day of the betrothal, Xuanning did not attend. Zhou Wanru appeared, her belly swollen, still limping as she walked. Strangely, though she wore luxurious garments and was attended by many servants, her expression was wretched and forlorn, her body emaciated beyond recognition. Only the child within her swelled like a basin, as if draining her of all vitality. Seeing me, she recoiled like a mouse before a cat. All traces of her former favored status vanished. Gone too was the haughty confidence she'd subtly hinted at when first pregnant. I withdrew my gaze after a single glance. The young lady soon to become crown princess, however, remained neither humble nor haughty. Without a single tear in her eyes, she composedly presided over the entire ceremony alone. She soothed the guests, kept the servants in line, and even attended to Zhou Wanru with meticulous care. I was present too. Being close by, I could make out the servant's lips as he reported, "His Highness is at Changming Temple." I didn't think much of it at first, but after the banquet ended, the crown princess called me aside. "You must be the Meng girl His Highness speaks of so often?" Her smile was open and sincere. After a moment's thought, I dismissed my guard. "Lu Yun, rest assured. I mean you no harm." She continued, "I only wish to tell you that His Highness, as regent, is exceedingly busy, sleeping but 2 hours each day. Yet upon learning of your childhood suffering from summer heat, he made time to personally light an eternal lamp for you. 3,333 steps, each with a kneel and a bow, all to pray for your safety and lift your hardship. And?" I asked. "And if you wish to see him, I won't stand in your way." She declared plainly, "His Highness's heart isn't with me. Even if I fought for it, it would be useless. The position of crown princess is all I desire." A remarkably clear-headed woman. "Thank you for the information." I smiled. "But you seem to have misunderstood. Xuanning and I have no relationship whatsoever. I certainly won't be visiting him. My constitution is weak, and this summer has indeed been harder to endure than before. Xuanning once built a swing for me with his own hands. Every day after lessons ended, he'd rush to the Meng residence, eager to push me on that swing, my only source of joy back then. Even now, I can vividly recall those fiery red sunsets, golden light filtering through soft clouds and painting Xuanning's cheeks crimson. He gazed at me without blinking, his forehead glistening with sweat, his face beaming. "Xiao man. I'll push you on this swing forever. Okay?" Those summers felt so fleeting back then that a lifetime didn't seem like such a long promise. Little did I know how fickle the heart can be. No matter how grand the beginning, it could only end in haste. On the way back to the mansion, I saw a carriage bearing the crown prince's emblem approaching. Just as a servant rolled up the curtain, Chuaning and I both looked up and saw each other. His clothes were disheveled, his face etched with deep fatigue, elbow propped on his knee. He was covered in dust and grass leaves. Most notably, his forehead bore a bloody gash, accentuating his gaunt cheeks. Yet his eyes blazed like a sudden fire, lighting up the moment he saw me. "Xiao man." He leaned out of the carriage, ordering the driver to halt. Before the carriage even came to a complete stop, he scrambled out, stumbling and scrambling to catch up behind my carriage. "Drive faster." I ordered Lu Yun to lower the curtain, closed my eyes, and ignored his shouts. Only when the carriage rolled through the courtyard gate did Xuaning's reluctant voice fade behind the threshold. Relieved, I dismounted. As I looked up, a maple leaf settled on my shoulder. Autumn was approaching. In early autumn, Xuaning led a raid on the Zhou family estate. Since assuming the regency, he had managed affairs with remarkable efficiency. Perhaps convinced the crown prince was destined for the throne, and with Zhou Wanru now pregnant, whether boy or girl, the firstborn would inherit. The Zhou family began to act as if they were the emperor's father-in-law, bullying men and women, seizing fertile fields. Under Xuaning's indulgence, their ambitions gradually swelled, even reaching for the salt fields. But Xuaning, who had deliberately tolerated them all along, bared his fangs at this moment and bit off the Zhou family's hand. 193 members of the Zhou family were executed on the spot. On the day of the execution, he brought Zhou Wanru to witness it. The shock drove her mad. After 2 days and nights of difficult labor, she gave birth to a stillborn child and bled to death. With all this settled, Xuaning knocked on the gates of the Meng residence late at night. When the gatekeeper refused to open, he patiently kept knocking. My father, robed in his official attire, came out to meet him. Xuaning repeated only one phrase. "Send Xiaoman to me." With the crown prince acting as regent, the Meng family dared not offend him. Thus, late at night, the front hall was relit. Lu Yun tied the cord of my cloak and ushered Xuaning inside. This was our first face-to-face conversation in months since his visit to the Eastern Palace to check on my health. He sat down, radiant with energy, and his first words were, "I avenged you." He couldn't wait to tell me how agonizing Zhou Wanru's final moments had been, and how he'd endured disgust and contempt to make her conceive, only to cast her into hell. His very bones trembled with excitement, his eyes gleaming as he looked at me, almost as if seeking a reward. I knew he was avenging us, his mother and child. But a man exploiting his power and status to humiliate a woman dependent on his mercy? No matter how satisfying the outcome, such methods remained despicable. Of course I hated Zhou Wanru. But how was Xuaning's treatment of her any different from his treatment of me in my past life? This wasn't vengeance, it was pure torment. His actions stemmed not from love or remorse for me, but from the cruel, vicious heart that lay deep within Xuaning's very bones. He wrapped himself tightly in the mask of a gentleman, daring to unleash his true nature only under the guise of love. It wasn't Xuaning who used violence, forced humiliation, and drove Zhou Wanru to her death. It was Xuaning who, for Meng Man's sake, compelled himself to humiliate and force Zhou Wanru to her death. He remained pure and blameless, even cultivating a reckless sense of self-sacrifice. How dare he show his face to me? My silence made Xuaning restless. "Xiao man, I've fully realized my mistake. I've erased it. I will never repeat it again. Could you give me one more chance?" He cautiously reached out, touching my fingertips. I withdrew my hand and asked coldly, "What about your crown princess?" As if anticipating this, he answered without hesitation, "Upon my ascension, I shall elevate her to imperial consort. I shall never set foot in her quarters again. Until then, I shall not touch her." Though I had heard Zhou Wanru's gruesome death without flinching, his matter-of-fact expression now filled me with dread. A wave of nausea churned in my stomach. I lifted my teacup. "Your Highness, please return." Then, supported by Lu Yun, I rose and headed back to my quarters. Chuanning froze. He sat motionless at the empty table, his face flushing crimson. Suddenly, he leapt to his feet and roared at me. "Mang Man, you won't wait for Zhui Shao. He's dead. He won't return." I jolted, clutching Liu Yun's hand tightly. I could barely walk, leaning on her body for support. Liu Yun wept. "Miss, hurry away," she urged me softly, her voice trembling with fear and sorrow. "Don't look back." Maple leaves turned crimson. Yet Zhui Shao never returned. The servants at the Prince of Shao's mansion knew nothing of his whereabouts. He sent no letters, leaving me uncertain of his very survival. On the day of my coming-of-age ceremony, the Meng residence overflowed with guests. Lu Yun waited anxiously at the entrance, scanning faces both familiar and unfamiliar, yet Zhui Shao was nowhere to be seen. When she returned in a panic to report this, the makeup artist was cleansing my face. Seeing me suddenly flinch, she apologized frantically. "Did I hurt you, miss?" I shook my head gently, steadying her trembling body. "It's fine. Continue." Cleansing, purification, incense burning, dressing, receiving the rites. By the time the rituals concluded, my emotions had settled into calm. Mother bestowed upon me the courtesy naming. With man's consent, I bowed low in reverence. Just then, the gatekeeper announced a procession of porters entering in single file, laden with dowry gifts. Their burdens filled the front hall. The guests murmured in astonishment, rushing outside to see. The streets were already filled with the clamor of gongs and drums. Endless rows of sandalwood chests and crimson flower-decorated carriages stretched from the beginning of the street to the end of the alley. At the center of the procession, a man rode a tall horse, dressed in festive attire, smiling broadly as he tossed out lucky money. The moment I saw his face, it was as if I'd been struck by lightning. It was Xuanning. Like an unshakable specter, he had clung to me relentlessly. Now, with those familiar eyes and brows, he was smiling gently at me. A short while later, Xuanning took his seat at the head of the table with unquestioned authority. I knelt before him, waiting for him to apply my bridal makeup. By custom, a maiden's floral hairpin should be placed by her birth mother or betrothed. Xuanning overstepped his bounds. Yet no one dared to stop him, for he brought with him a contingent of the imperial guards. Directly under His Majesty's command, this signal extinguished any lingering resistance in my parents. They pulled me close, urging me repeatedly to endure. Xuanning lifted my chin with his fingers. Seated high above, he leaned down to gaze at me, his eyes flickering with smug satisfaction. "Shao Man," he murmured, "I told you long ago, you were never meant to escape me." He chuckled softly. "It doesn't matter if you despise me. I possess boundless patience to wait. Soon, Eunuch Zhao will deliver the imperial decree granting our marriage. And you will become my Xuanning's sole wife, the Supreme Empress. We'll have many children together, each growing up healthy and safe. And we'll stay together like this until we grow old." A hazy longing spread across his face, as if he were truly immersed in the beautiful dream he was painting. "The imperial decree has arrived. Mang Man, the legitimate daughter of the Mang family, receive the decree." I seized the moment to break free from Xuanning's grip and knelt to receive the decree. Inside, my mind raced. searching for an escape route. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees, Mang Man, the eldest daughter of the Mang family, is both beautiful and wise, possessing outstanding character and appearance. She is hereby betrothed to Prince Xiao as his consort, and the wedding shall be held on an auspicious day. So ordered. I froze. And Juaning froze too. Prince Xiao? Prince Xiao! Juaning flew into a rage. Drawing his sword and pointing it at eunuch Zhao, how could it be Prince Xiao? Father must have made a mistake. Xiao Man is meant to marry me. Eunuch Zhao calmly handed the imperial decree to me. His eyes filled with pity. Young Master Ning. This is His Majesty's will. I spun around abruptly. Juaning seemed to realize something too. His sword-gripping hand trembling uncontrollably. Then, eunuch Zhao produced a second scroll. Deposed Crown Prince Juaning. Receive this edict. Clang! Juaning's sword fell to the ground. Impossible. Impossible. I must find Father Emperor. I must find Father Emperor. His expression was neither crying nor laughing, neither smiling nor frowning. He turned to flee. Suddenly, a hand swept over the crowd, firmly seizing his shoulder. Juaning jerked like a startled bird, but upon recognizing the face, he froze completely. Not just him, I froze too. It was a face of dashing elegance. Eyes deep and expressive. Lips curved in a perpetual smile. A folding fan never left his grasp, its handle adorned with an old, fragrant pouch. Zhuo Xiao turned to me, raising an eyebrow with a carefree, unrestrained grin. Maple leaves turned crimson. Xiao Man. Only after the dust settled did I grasp what had truly transpired. Juaning had driven Zhuo Xiao away. Yet Zhuo Xiao had secretly received the emperor's decree. He diverted his route midway to Jiangnan, investigating a case involving the clandestine mining and forging of refined iron. The mine's owner bore the surname Qin, the very clan of the empress's late husband. Had the emperor not rebelled that year, their family, allied with the empress's maternal house, could have risen to become a prominent aristocratic lineage. But the emperor intervened, not only executing the clan's most promising young heir but also, driven by jealousy, repeatedly suppressing them. Thus, 20 years later, the family remained stifled, their descendants' futures squandered. Brewing resentment, they plotted rebellion. The empress, aware of their plans, chose to conceal them. Upon discovering Zhuo Xiao's movements, Juaning aligned herself with the empress, or perhaps driven by personal motives, repeatedly ambushed and attempted to kill Zhuo Xiao. Zhuo Xiao narrowly escaped death multiple times, finally presenting incriminating evidence to the emperor 5 days prior. The emperor, his heart now utterly cold, initially spared Crown Prince Juaning from involvement. Yet the empress acted first, poisoning the emperor. The emperor seized the opportunity, using my coming-of-age ceremony as a ruse to lure Juaning out of the palace. Privately, he bestowed a cup of poisoned wine upon the empress. Juaning was likewise branded a traitor, stripped of his title, and confined to house arrest. The position of crown prince now lay vacant. After recounting all this, Zhuo Xiao hesitated, words failing him. I'm sorry for making you live in fear all this time. His voice was faint, lacking conviction. I smiled gently. It's fine. After all, we were merely using each other. A suffocating anger welled up inside me, finding no outlet. Claiming exhaustion, I asked him to leave. Zhuo Xiao's dark eyes fixed on me silently before he suddenly sighed. Xiao Man, you've always been so wise. After he departed, I tossed and turned all night, unable to sleep. The irrationalities of the past, once magnified, now found their answers. Like His Majesty forcibly taking another man's wife, knowing full well the Empress despised him, yet feigning ignorance to satisfy his own desires. Yet he remained perpetually wary, seeing threats everywhere, unable to resist testing the waters time and again, ultimately reaping what he sowed. Like how Zhuo Xiao married me, perhaps that too was His Majesty's doing. Initially, he sought to prevent Xuanning from becoming ensnared by passion, positioning Zhuo Xiao as his adversary to keep him in check. Later, disillusioned with Xuanning, he used Zhuo Xiao as his instrument to eliminate the threat. Even an emperor who ruled the entire realm had to scheme and guard against his own kin to this extent. As a mere pawn in this game, Zhuo Xiao surely had no choice but to comply. In the end, he never truly wronged me. It was I who truly exploited him. Outside the window, the lingering notes of a flute drifted in. It was the phoenix seeks its mate. Melancholic and plaintive, like a lament. I pushed open the window and saw Zhuo Xiao, who should have departed, standing atop the wall. His moon-white robes fluttered in the breeze, outlining his slender form. Spotting me at the window, he played with renewed fervor. The sharp contours of his profile softened in the moonlight, his ink-black hair fluttering as if he were an immortal about to ride the moon away. Lonely, desolate. Chi-Han, was he praying for winter's swift departure? Or yearning for that cold, clear moon to illuminate his path? Perhaps Mother was right after all. Luyin rubbed her eyes as she draped a robe over me. Why are you up, young mistress? The night frost is heavy, take care not to catch cold. I pointed at the moon and turned to smile at her. Look, the moonlight tonight is truly beautiful. Before our wedding, Zhuo Xiao accompanied me to Changming Temple to burn incense. On the offering table stood 2 eternal lamps, inscribed with my name and birth date. One was still quite new, its oil already spent. The other, aged and weathered, held a thick layer of congealed oil beneath its lampshade. Yet it still glowed. Curious. I stepped closer to examine it, but found no name inscribed. Zhuo Xiao stifled a chuckle. Perhaps it was offered by one of your admirers? The passing abbot recognized Zhuo Xiao's face and paused to ask. The Grain and Ear Festival has just passed. Why have you returned so soon, benefactor? I looked up at Zhuo Xiao in surprise, only for him to seize my hand. With a sharp rustle, he unfolded his fan to shield his face. His handsome features flushed crimson with embarrassment at being exposed in public. Yet he maintained his composure, accompanying my lady to pray for blessings. On the descent, my curiosity finally got the better of me. Could it be? You've harbored feelings for me all along? He muttered. You never once asked why I disliked Xuanning. I was even more astonished. Wasn't it because of His Majesty's orders? That was the initial reason. He shot me a quick glance and whispered. Later, it was because you treated him too well. Zhuo Xiao had been hiding a secret deep within his heart. That he had been present when Xuanning was attacked. But he'd been too far away, forced to watch helplessly as the arrow flew toward her. Just as Xuanning was about to meet her end, a fiery red figure moved faster than death itself. Like a moth drawn to a flame, it threw itself forward without hesitation, blocking the arrowhead. That flash of flame was burned into his eyes. So much so that when he saw the pale-faced girl again, he nearly failed to recognize her. Inside the door, his nephew was still ranting loudly. How could the esteemed crown prince's consort be such a sickly weakling? The girl's face instantly drained of color, tears welling in her eyes. Yet she remained silent, retreating gloomily. How could any girl be so foolish? Zhuo Xiao thought. If he were her, he would first storm in and slap Xuanning twice, then kick him a few times. Finally, he would spread the news throughout the city, completely ruining his reputation, forcing him to personally apologize. So, inexplicably, he felt a tingle in his hands. He found an excuse to go up and gave Xuanning a thorough scolding to vent his anger. Later, for reasons unknown, more and more eyes fell upon them. By the time he came to his senses, the young girl had grown into a graceful young woman, standing before him. This humble maiden has long admired His Royal Highness Prince Xiao. My sole wish in this life is to marry him alone. To be bound by marriage vows. United in heart and mind. Loving and trusting without doubt. He clearly saw the utter lack of affection in her eyes. Yet he still nodded. Perhaps this was the only time in his life as a pawn that he had actively chosen to enter the game. A year later, His Majesty finally named the third prince as crown prince. My parents' hearts, held in their throats, finally relaxed. They kept patting their chests, murmuring that peace was the truest blessing. On the day of the crown prince's investiture, a general amnesty was declared. The deposed crown prince Xuanning was also allowed to see the light of day again. I heard, however, that he was not quite in his right mind, repeating over and over, "Start over." Midway through the ceremony, I felt unwell and retired to the guest quarters to rest. There, unexpectedly, I saw Xuanning gathering branches in the peach grove. His eyes lit up upon seeing me. He rushed toward me, branch in hand, only to be stopped by the guards. Still exuberant, he exclaimed, "Xiao man, are you feeling better? I'll make you a swing, okay?" Then, upon seeing my bridal hairstyle, a flicker of clarity passed through his eyes. His expression suddenly twisted in agony as he clutched his head, crying out, "No, this can't be right. How did it come to this?" He desperately tried to explain to me, "This isn't how it should be. Xiao man, you're meant to marry me. Do you believe me? In our past life, you were my crown princess consort. You bore me a child. We were deeply in love. There was no Zhou Wanru, no Zhou Xiao, only the two of us. Believe me, every word is true. Something must be wrong. This can't be right. I don't believe you." I walked over with a faint smile and whispered softly into his ear, "Stop pretending, Xuanning. Because I'm reborn too." Xuanning's body stiffened, then began to shake violently. He stumbled backward, terror and immense regret flashing in his eyes. His lips trembled. Then he collapsed to the ground. Satisfied, I turned and left with Lu Yun. Later, Xuanning did indeed escape when the guards were lax. But the deposed crown princess consort, acting for the greater good, led the report against him. The third prince, who had long been acting as regent, showed no hesitation. He sentenced Xuanning to be beheaded and simultaneously granted the dethroned crown princess's request for divorce. On the day of the execution, someone delivered a gift box to me. I opened it to find a marriage contract inside. Its form and writing were both crude. It was one that the young Xuanning had given me many years ago. Back then, his expression was solemn and earnest as he handed it to me, saying, "Xiao man, when you grow up, we'll marry. Once we're married, you'll play only with me for the rest of your life, and I'll play only with you for the rest of mine. Whoever breaks this promise shall die a miserable death." The end.